Okay, guys, Colin Kaepernick has an unexpected new job. He's joining Medium's board of directors as the online publishing platform's only non-white board member. Cap will also interview high-profile leaders, activists, and athletes and write stories based on those conversations. So, Shannon, what do you think? Are you surprised by this?
I'm not really surprised, Skip, but for when I look at it, Skip, we really haven't heard much from Cap over the last 3 years. There have been a couple of roundtable discussions about causes. I mean, getting Know Your Rights campaign. I think that's something that he started and thrown a lot of support and money behind. But for me, Skip, it's interesting that this is not sports. This is not football specific. And I don't think this is an indication that he's for or against returning to the NFL. So I don't want to read too much into it.
Okay.
I think this is an opportunity for him to get his message out to even more, talk to even more high-profile people, get some activists, get some athletes that has a saying that's in his corner for the goal, for the common goal in which he wants to see, and that's equality here in America. So for me, Skip, and still, we're not going to get an opportunity to hear much. He's going to be doing the interviewing. So it's not like he's going to be the interviewee. He's the interviewer.
Very good point.
So I still don't know how much we're going to be able to deduce or gather from that. But I think
they said the subject matter would be prison reform and race.
Right, right. So at the end of the day, I think now what people, we still have, we know what Cap is doing off the field. I think the question is, does Cap still want to play? Can he still play? And will he get an opportunity? I think eventually those are going to be the subject matters that's going to have to be addressed by Cap, because you keep seeing, Skip, a lot of teams like Mark Davis says, hey, I always gave my coaches, if you want to sign him, sign him. There are a lot of other coaches say, hey, we might be willing to take a chance at him. And so until that interview happens where they sit down and they discuss football-related matters, Skip, not this, not prison reform, not what you're doing off the field, football-related matters, then and only then will I say, someone's serious. And then Cap is serious about returning to the NFL. But until then, this is an opportunity, this is a job for him, something that he's very passionate about, and I'm happy to see that he's still actively, very heavily involved in things of this subject matter.
So, for me, this is a start. It's also not a finish to his NFL potential.
Correct.
Two things can be true, says Shannon Sharp. You can do both.
Right.
LeBron is going to do both when they go to the bubble.
Right.
He's going to be an activist, and he's going to try to win a championship.
Right.
And I don't doubt that you can juggle those two balls. Right? So, at least Cap is sticking his toe in the water of more public activism.
Correct.
And I don't know that much about Medium, so I looked on their website last night. Got their mission statement. Medium, it says, is not like any other platform on the internet. Our sole purpose is to help you find compelling ideas, knowledge, perspectives. We don't serve ads. We serve you, the curious reader who loves to learn new things. So I like that's a good connection for Cap. Right place, maybe right time. So, what has literally 2020 hindsight taught us about what Colin Kaepernick did in 2016? It took all-time guts and courage for a starting quarterback, a franchise quarterback in 2016, way ahead of this curve that we're in right now. This could be glorious curve we're in. For him to say, first, I'm going to sit for the anthem. And if that doesn't work, okay, I'll take a knee for the anthem. Because somebody desperately needs to do something to call attention to this, which is obviously unarmed black men and women being murdered by white cops. And it just kept happening again and again and again and again and again. And he finally said, enough. As a starting quarterback, he risked his livelihood, his future, and he lost it to take that knee. So as a social/racial justice warrior, he has gone down in history for what he did. It took us 4 years to sort of come to grips with, aha. It took 4 years for many outside the black community to say, aha, he was right.
This is what he was, that's it.
Okay, to move past God and country, respecting the flag, to you're trying to make a statement. It's because you're part of that flag. It's your country too. But your country is not serving you the way it serves other colors, right?
Correct.
Okay. So now we get back to what has happened over these 4 years. And I've told you oftentimes on the show, and I'm going to voice it again. My frustration is I haven't heard enough from Colin Kaepernick. When I when I had the privilege of hearing him in 2016 after football games, he wasn't just a good speaker, he was a compelling, riveting speaker to my ear. I was captivated because he was enlightening with an edge. He had an edge to his voice. He had a raw, real anger in his voice, but he spoke from a base of deep knowledge and comprehension and feel for what he was talking about, to the point that I was hooked on listening to him speak. And I thought, here we go. We have an activist for the ages. He has the gift of gab. You have the gift of gab. It's something you can't be taught or coached. You're born with it or you're not born with it. Trust me, I've been in this business for so long. I know people can talk or they can't talk. They can communicate or they can't. Some of the greatest athletes we've ever had, some of the biggest superstars, sit in that chair and they can't communicate it. They can see it, but they can't speak it. Colin could speak it. So I've been frustrated to the point of hurting over, here was a leader for the time. He's obviously become the face of the movement in utter silence. He does tweet occasionally. The one thing I don't love about tweets, they're like texts. They can be misunderstood. They can be a little murky, a little hazy. You mean what? About what? What? You know how it happens. You can get in trouble on Twitter because you tweet one line and everybody says, how can you say that? Well, that's not exactly what I was saying. I really meant this. Well, if you have only X number of characters or you don't even use the allotment, if you just fire off one sentence, it can be misread, misunderstood, mistaken.
That is correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so I would love to hear Colin speak, do interview sessions, or at least do interviews, one-on-one interviews. He's done next to nothing except for his Nike ads, and they're great, but it's not real, pure, raw Colin Kaepernick, right? So I've tried to read between the lines of what's happened here. I do think, to a fault, we sort of looked at him as, are you the new Dr. King? Well, that's not fair. I can't put him on that pedestal. You want to talk about the all-time gift of gab? He was Dr. Martin Luther King. He was a minister by trade.
Yes, he's one of the great orators in our history. One of the great
orators in the history of the world.
Yes.
Where if just pull up a clip right now and you won't be able to stop. You are mesmerized by it. So to compare Colin Kaepernick to Dr. King is not fair. I'm not saying he's that. Maybe in his own way, in his own style, he could grow into that, but he has opted to remain mostly silent. His mystique has grown in his silence, and maybe that was the game plan. I don't know. Is it better to say nothing and let your aura grow? Maybe. But does that help the movement whose time has come? Not really.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one, Skip. I think the thing was that in the beginning when Cap told you what he was doing, you didn't like what he was doing. So, Skip, you made it about, and still, there are some said, well, it's the flag and it's the anthem. It's kind of like when the people were taken to the streets, you didn't talk about what they were taken to the streets for. You talked about the looting. You talked about the rioting. So now you missed the whole purpose. Okay, the cause and effect. What caused Colin Kaepernick to originally take a seat and then take a knee at the behest of Nate Boyer, who is a Green Beret, says, hey, taking a seat is going to be perceived as bad. How about take a knee and show a sign of respect towards the flag?
No, by the way, Nate Boyer is white. For the record, yes.
Green Beret. I think he went to the University of Texas, Skip.
Don't remember that, but
that's what he suggested. Who is a veteran, suggested that Cap took a knee. So he took the knee, told you why he was taking a knee, but because you didn't want to hear what he was talking about, you said it was the flag and he's disrespecting the anthem. Okay, like the protesters, Skip, they're in the street And you see, and you don't want to talk about that where they're looting and they're rioting.
And obviously, our president and some of our NFL owners set that tone that you're talking about.
That is correct, because that was an issue, Skip. I don't really want to touch that because, see, Skip, where I am, I'm in a bubble. It's 72 and sunny. It don't get chaotic over here where I'm at. And that's not coming to my neighborhood. And it's not anyone that I know, Skip, or I have blood affiliation with, or someone that I'm really, really close to. They're not gonna suffer at the hands of that.
Yep.
So it's hard to get attached to something, Skip, where you don't feel you have a personal connection. You know, Skip, for me, when I watch these the ASPCA come on television, I already know I just go on and get my checkbook. You know, Skip, because they start showing me these dogs and the shaking and the cat.
I got it.
There goes my money.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I got a bunch of labels coming in a T-shirt. That happens everything because I got a personal connection.
Yeah.
I love animals.
You and Ernestine both. She comes to me every other night and says, do you think I just saw this poor little puppy?
63 cents a day, and 63 cents turns into $20 a month. But anyway, Skip, and so that's what happens. And so you don't have the personal connection to that. But for me, Skip, his presence is becoming bigger. And so now maybe even though he won't be the interviewee, you will hear his voice. You'll hear other people's voices on this. And so now maybe it will even get a bigger supporting audience. So I'm happy.
See, the irony is, if, let's just say, for sake of argument, you have Colin Kaepernick interviewing Bill Russell.
Right.
Well, I also want to hear Bill Russell ask Colin Kaepernick some questions.
Yes.
I want a two-way street there.
Yes.
Because they're both historical figures to me.
Yes.
And Colin, it says, on Medium, is going to do some long-form sort of magazine-style writing.
Right.
Great. There's nothing like speaking directly to the masses.
Right.
And at some point, he's so capable of doing that. If I didn't think so, I'd say, well...